Hello and welcome to the Mythic Quill. My name is Leclerc. Today's video is the second of a two-part series about publishing options. In the last video, I talked mostly about traditional publishing, and today I want to focus on self-publishing and assisted self-publishing. The publishing landscape has changed a lot over the years, and with advances in technology and the ease of print-on-demand services, authors have a lot more options these days than they ever had before. So aside from traditional publishing and self-publishing and assisted self-publishing, there are also things like hybrid publishing. There are a lot of printers now who offer services like cover design and interior formatting and design. And of course, there are also a lot of freelancers out there offering services to authors as well. So I just want to clarify that today when I talk about assisted self-publishing, I am speaking specifically about those companies that market themselves as assisted self-publishing companies. In the last video, we talked about all the steps that go into publishing a book, such as the many levels of editing, interior formatting and design, cover design and layout, marketing and promotion, printing and distribution, acquiring ISBNs. So all of those things that go into publishing a book. So in the case of traditional publishing, of course, it's a publishing house that covers the cost of all those things and offers the manpower to get all the things done. In the case of self-publishing, it's the author themselves who either has to do all of those things, who has to do all the steps themselves, or they have to research, check references, look at testimonials, to choose the people to do the services for them to make sure the project's getting done. Now, this is where an assisted self-publishing company can come in. So if you have a manuscript done and you don't know where to go next, they're a good option. They're like a one-stop shop for authors. They can offer any of the services that you need. And a lot of times they offer the services a la carte, or they can offer you different packages. And of course, whatever you choose depends on what you need done and also the budget that you have available to you. But there are a couple of things I want to caution you on though. They can be quite costly, and because they can, you might be tempted to skimp a little on things that shouldn't be skimped on, like editing. So make sure you don't do that. You need to make sure that the things that need to be focused on and you need to be putting the money into need to actually get done properly. Self-publishing companies are really good, or assisted self-publishing companies are really good for people who don't know what to do next. And just by interacting with your project manager and going through the steps of getting your book completed, you can actually learn a lot by interacting with the company. So there are pros there as well as cons. I do have a couple of tips for you if you do decide to go with an assisted self-publishing company. First of all, make sure you're really researching the companies very well and you're looking at reviews and testimonials on the company, because it's been known that there have been some scams out there. So you need to be careful. If it's a true assisted self-publishing company, they should not be claiming any royalties and they should not be listed as a publisher of your book, which leads to the second tip. Make sure you're buying your own ISBNs. Now in Canada, we get those for free, and in the US and elsewhere, I think you buy them, but we'll talk a little bit more about that down the road when we talk about the different steps. I mentioned that the major differences between the three types of publishing can be summarized in cost to the author, royalties, and time. So I want to look at those three things in relation to the three types of publishing. So for cost, traditional publishing should cost the least to the author because it's a publishing house that should be covering all the costs. Now for self-publishing, the cost can vary quite a lot depending on what things the author can do themselves, what the experience level is of the people they're hiring to do the different steps. And also things like, for the cover, are they using stock photos or do you want original art done? And so it can vary a lot there. Now for assisted self-publishing, that can actually be the most costly because you're paying that company to do all those steps for you, but you're also paying them to manage your project and to make sure it gets done in a timely manner and to a high standard. For royalties, for traditional publishing, the author stands to make the least royalties. It's a traditional publishing house that keeps the majority of the royalties there. So you might actually get paid in advance by the traditional publishing house, but these days it's not always the case, and it's getting harder and harder to get decent advances as well. With self-publishing and assisted self-publishing, on the other hand, the author should be keeping the majority of the royalties. So it's common for authors to make 70% or more of the royalties themselves. Some companies like Amazon and Ingram might claim a little bit depending on what services they're offering you, but the author should be keeping most of the royalties there. As for time, when it comes to traditional publishing, I'm kind of talking about two things when it comes to time. Number one, how much time is the author putting into it? So with traditional publishing, the author should be putting the least amount of time into getting the project done. However, traditional publishing can take a long time. It's a long process. So the author has to put a lot of time into not only querying literary agents, but then once they have a literary agent and they submit to publishing houses, even once you get accepted by a publishing house, it could take 1.5 to 2 years for your book to even make it to publication. For self-publishing, it can go fairly quickly depending on a number of factors, but it should be a lot faster than that. Now, when I first finished my first manuscript, it had been kind of kicking around in my head for over 20 years before I actually got on a paper. There's a lot of reasons for that, but we won't go into that in this video. But I wasn't really interested in going the traditional publishing route because I wasn't interested in waiting 2 or 3 or 4 years to get my book actually published. But aside from that, I wanted to keep complete creative control over the project. So, but I didn't really know where to go next, like what was my next step. So I decided to go with an assisted self-publishing company. And there were a lot of benefits to that. Like I learned a lot through the process. And by the time I was done, I felt like I was comfortable enough to oversee my own project and do proper self-publishing the next time around. But there were some negatives as well. So for example, I'm going to show you a copy. This is the book that the assisted self-publishing company did for me. It looks professional enough. It's got a nice cover. It is made of stock photos though. Like there's 2 photos here put together. Then they changed a few things. Like I think in the original picture, the woman was holding an axe, I think, and they put a sword there. And they changed the color of her hair. They changed the background color and so on. And it's a professional looking book. And they did really well with the formatting and stuff. But there was one thing I really wasn't happy with, and it was really kind of a big thing. And that was the editing. So I don't know why, but like halfway through the project, we switched editors. And they never did tell me why. But I never had any one-on-one contact with the editor. So I have no idea what happened, but they did switch editors. And the only way I had of communicating with the editor, if I had questions, was to leave notes, like margin notes in the document itself. But a lot of my questions went unanswered. So in the end, I think I was happy with a lot of things about the book, but I wasn't happy with the quality of the editing. And people might find it a little strange for me to say, I wish the editor was harder on me, but that's the case because I would rather have a really tough editor and then be very happy with the final project and be proud of the project than to come up with a final project that I wasn't quite happy with, which is what happened. So in the end, I ended up completely self-publishing the book myself in a 2nd edition. And this is my 2nd edition. Some major differences are its original art, for one thing, which meant that the artist was able to find, it wasn't necessarily a unique font, but it was one that fit my book and one that had to be licensed. I was able to put little touches in like the swords and the stylized S. And the swords were also in there for the chapter breaks as well. See if I can find an example. So it's very personalized. And the other benefit to that was I plan on doing a series. So using the cover artist, I could use the same cover artist for each one. So they end up having the same feel of the book start the series. And of course, when I did the second edition, I was very careful about the editing. Like I did the manuscript. I edited my manuscript. I added like 12,000 words. I changed a lot of things. And then I got a beta read by a few different people. Then when I got the feedback from the beta readers, I did a whole bunch more editing. And that was before I even sent it off to a professional editor. So I was a lot happier with the final product when I did it myself. So again, the option that's best for you is going to depend on the amount of money and time you have to put into it and what your goals are in the end. So that's it for today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're interested in finding out more about publishing and writing and so on, please hit the subscribe button. And if you hit the little bell button, you'll get a notification when the next video is posted. Thank you. See you next time.